Boxing Truth here. Chris EUBANK Jr. just made easy work of AVNI YILDRIM today in Germany in front of a hostile crowd, and it was a very good performance, probably the most impressive performance to date in terms of the super middleweight tournament. EUBANK made a statement tonight. He boxed well. He used his movement. He used his superior boxing skills, his superior punch variation, his superior speed. He was just too fresh, too athletic, had too much of a work rate, and AVNI couldn't deal with the speed, the athleticism, the combinations, and the work rate and the punch variation, as AVNI wasn't able to get off much. He's a pressure fighter, but you need to bring more than pressure if you're gonna fight EUBANK Jr. It was a favorable matchup for EUBANK. It was a good cherry pick by his father. I mean, that style suits him very well. If you're gonna pressure EUBANK, you gotta bring a skill set. You gotta bring a good gas tank. You gotta bring more than just pressure. You're gonna have a hard time beating EUBANK if you're just a pressure fighter. EUBANK has really worked on his craft. He's really improved since the Saunders fight. He was very raw and had a lot to work on at that time, and I've seen him. He's put in the work. He's working very hard, working on his weaknesses, and right now he's no longer a glorified showcase fighter. He's legitimate top contender in super middleweight division. He has an IBO strap, but I don't count that shit. It's not recognized. But right now, he's had the most impressive performance in the tournament thus far. There's still 2 other quarterfinals matchups to go in the super middleweight division for the tournament. You still have George Groves against Jamie Cox, and you also have Rob Brand against Brammer. So right now, EUBANK is looking like he could be the clear favorite, and a lot of people are riding with EUBANK, and rightfully so. He's looking better. In his last 2 performances, he had an off performance against Quinlan. He wasn't himself in that fight. He admitted he wasn't 100%, that something was off for that fight. But you see in his last 2 performances, the speed is fully back. His combinations are fully back. His aggressiveness is fully back. He's exploding in some of the rounds in his last 2 fights. That's the EUBANK I'm used to seeing. And it was good to see some punching power tonight in his fight against AVNI. Blew him out of there in 3 rounds, which was a surprising result considering AVNI's undefeated guy. He's a little bigger, more physically stronger. Was a little bit of a quick stoppage, but whatever. AVNI didn't complain. He got trashed within 3 and got knocked down twice, and it was a good win for EUBANK Jr. Good performance, and you can see why a lot of people are riding with him. They feel very strongly that EUBANK is going to win it all. He's going to win this tournament. And I'm also thinking the same way. I've been saying even before the tournament started that EUBANK is a legitimate threat. He could very well just win this whole thing. And right now it's a great opportunity for him. He's getting some limelight, he's getting some shine, he's getting some recognition, and he's definitely a legitimate contender, a world-class fighter. And now he has a chance to get a grudge match with George Groves, as Groves is expected to go past Jamie Cox. He's heavily favored, at least. George Groves has to handle the business in his fight, and that's going to be a big domestic clash, and I favor EUBANK in that matchup. He's much fresher. He might be too young. He might be too fresh, too much of a work rate. And George Groves, he's got a lot of mileage on his clock. He's been knocked out a couple of times. So I favor EUBANK in that matchup if it occurs. It's a good fight for him. Groves is not a big puncher. He's not as fast. It's a favorable matchup for EUBANK. And we'll see how he does in the semifinals. Whoever gets through that fight against Groves and Cox, most likely will be Groves. Callum Smith didn't impress me against Eric Sakuglin. he was the favorite going into the tournament, but that may no longer be the case. In my eyes, I see Rob Brandt as the dark horse in this tournament. He has to fight Bremer in his home country, but he's the lone American in both of the tournaments. But he's a good fighter, and he's been looking good in his last few performances. He's been knocking guys out, and that's going to be an interesting fight. If EUBANK can get to the final and Rob Brandt can get to the final, the lone American in both of the tournaments for this Super Series, that's going to be a really good prize fight, a real fight. And EUBANK is definitely proving his worth. He's shown a lot of improvements over the years, and he's only getting better. He's for real. He's no longer a glorified showcase fighter. So, looking forward to EUBANK's future. He's got a bright future ahead of him. Another favorable matchup ahead of him if he ends up getting Groves in a huge domestic clash in the UK. Expect EUBANK in the finals, whoever he faces in the semis. But I can envision him fighting Rob Brandt, as Callum Smith didn't really impress me, but maybe Smith could do better in his next outing. But congratulations to EUBANK on the victory. Knocked out an undefeated world-rated contender. He's starting to make some believers out of him. He's still got a lot of haters, but he's doing big things. He's making moves. He's trying to become a legitimate world champion. And if he comes away with this tournament as the victor, he's got a lot of big future clashes ahead of him, big money fights ahead of him, a lot of glory ahead of him, and he has the potential, man, to be a big star. He just has to put the work in and show that he's a real fighter and that he's world class and that he's a legitimate champion, which he hasn't proven yet since he has some IBO strap. But he'll get his chance, his opportunity in his very next fight, as he'll have a legitimate world title fight in his hands and a chance to prove that he is legitimate world champion by gaining the WBO strap in his collection. Good performance. Let me know what y'all think about EUBANK's performance against Yildirim. This is Boxing Truth. I'm out.